And they're going to be playing this. I think that's serious. Sorry.
It's all right. No, there's so many bands that are so influential and so kind. Even bands that aren't necessarily bands that influence me directly musically, people in them, and this goes back to Warped Tour, something like Less Than Jake, who I've always respected and liked, but it wasn't necessarily something that I listened to every day. But someone like JR from that band has become such a close friend of mine that he influences me every day as a kind and loving person in this industry. Obviously, we've been fortunate enough to become friends with a lot of our heroes, people like Nikki Sixx and Dee Snider and Sebastian Bach, and people that have had such kind words to say about the band and have collaborated with the band in many ways. So I mean, my biggest influences growing up were equal parts, like Alkaline Trio was my favorite band of all time. Bands like the Misfits, obviously AFI, and then I had the other side of me, which is I'm a hugely devoted Kiss fan and have been since I was 3 years old. I love Motley Crue, I love LA Gun. I love all that stuff. A lot of it shines through in our music, I think, but I've always been equal parts, Kiss and Social Distortion. So those are my favorite things.
Awesome. So Jessica wants to know if there was one song from one of your favorite bands that you wish you wrote, what would it be?
I feel that way about a lot of Juliet Simms' songs. She's a great songwriter. I like the whole Kids Will Take Their Monsters On album. She's got a lot of great songs on there.
And she killed it at the kickoff party.
Absolutely, she did. Yeah. I was on the stage. She was awesome. So I mean, I think a lot of my friends that write songs, I'm always happy when I get to I guess hear something that inspires me. But it goes back to Alkaline Trio, a band that really influenced me to write lyrics in the first place. A lot of their songs growing up as a kid, I'd be like, damn, I wish I wrote that. Particularly the Dan Andriano songs. I think he's one of the best songwriters, period, that's ever existed. But Bruce Springsteen's a huge influence to me. There's a lot of lyric stuff, like particularly stuff like Born to Run is such a great song. I don't think that anybody can deny that song, and that's one of those things, like, you strive to be able to write something that's so emotional and such an anthem for people.
All right, so the last album was a concept album. Did you find it difficult to write a concept album, and how did you approach it differently? Differently. Yeah, differently. Hold on, I think for this I need to put my concept record hat on, and this is my thinking cap. And wait, no, I think I need to be a concept record dog. Yeah, this really helps me write. See, now I'm bummed that I didn't have the sound effects there before. Here we go. There you go. That's where it's at. Now let me put my hat back on. There we go. Concept record hat is firmly back on right now. I think that going into writing an album that has a story to it, it all started with, I kind of wrote a short story on a flight from Europe back to the States. We had started making a record previously that had, with a different producer, that was going to be our third record. It just didn't feel particularly exciting. It felt a lot like too much of a logical follow-up to our previous record. It felt a lot like this is what Black Veil Brides should do, or whatever. And I just wasn't interested in that. So I started writing this story, and then I met with John Feldman, and it was honestly just like we were gonna, we had mutual friends for a long time. We kind of walked in the same social circles, and we were going to try our hand at writing some songs together. And we worked together, and honestly, I started talking to him on the phone about the concept, after we had written a song, and I started going in, and he started kind of suggesting to me that maybe that's what we do with the record, because this was something that at the time I wrote mainly just as a short story. I write a lot of stories, and I draw a lot. I'm not the most gifted artist in the world, but, I like sketching, and I've always been really into comic books, so I like to kind of try my hand at those things, if nothing else than just for my own personal enjoyment. But I started telling him about this stuff I was working on, and he kind of got into the idea we should do this as a concept record, and I kind of definitely got excited about that, and I brought it to the band, and we wound up writing with the help of Patrick Fogarty, our video director, and Richard Villa, who does all of our artwork. The three of us wrote a screenplay, like a film screenplay, and that was kind of the skeleton for the record. And through the course of making the album, we kind of used that as a reference point, and you definitely go about writing songs differently when you're writing to a story, but also the main idea was to make all of the songs into parables, as in, kind of biblical stories, where it can either be something that is seen directly as the story, or it can be a parallel for our real life. And I think that writing the songs was always like, this is something that means something to me, but it can also be paralleled in the story. I didn't want to write, Gandalf. I wasn't trying to write some sort of, wizard, fiction or whatever. It was about a heightened reality and kind of a heightened future and a what if situation. So, and that was a lot of fun. And I definitely think that we'll go down that road again with future records.
That's cool. Yeah, I was just going to ask. Another one of the questions that was asked a lot was, will it be a sequel? I know there was an interview we mentioned it was too early to tell, and then in the Rolling Stone interview, you said that you might have some ideas already.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily think that we were going to come back and make another record quickly, and I still don't think that it's not anything like you're going to see a new record coming out in the next couple months, but I'd like to go back into the studio next year, and I've got a concept that I'm working on right now with the same collaborators, and I think that it's not necessarily a sequel, but it's certainly something that's in the same vein. And as far as sequels go to the story, we've been working on a script, and Richard Villa has been working on it with me, and we're thinking about trying to do some sort of graphic novel or a one-off graphic novel to kind of complete the story from the record.
So Julie wants to know, will there be another single released soon, and are you planning on making more videos for the songs on Wretched and Divine?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, we just got our confirmation that we're going to go ahead and do another video. Hopefully we can shoot it out before we leave for Warped Tour. We're writing the concepts right now. It's actually something that's really exciting and cool. And after the events of the Golden Gods the other night, we all kind of got together and we had this idea to write this concept for a music video, and I think it's really cool, and it's an interesting little take on the life of people that are performers or in bands and stuff. And I'm not going to reveal what song it is yet, but it's one of my favorite songs on the record, and it was actually the first song that I tracked vocals to for the record.
That's awesome. Do you think that it's difficult to create music videos, since for the movie you kind of already dedicated a visual to those songs?
Yeah, well, I think that obviously the song will be something that wasn't in the movie, the song that we choose. I doubt that we'll go down the road of making another video for things that weren't even represented, but it'll be something that wasn't already in the movie. And there's actually a handful of songs that weren't in the movie. The movie was only 45 minutes, so the record itself is about 52, 53 minutes.
Okay. Somebody asked if Legion of the Black will be shown in UK cinemas. Will be.
We'd love it to. It's one of those things where it's sometimes hard to. In the States it was a little bit easier to sell because, we had a little bit more. It's a little bit easier to say, we're this U.S. band and I made this movie, but it's hard to tell people like, hey, we're a rock band that made a movie about our concept record. Can we bring it to your country and show it in cinemas? We're working on it, and we've got negotiations to try to do it, but it might be a little bit before we get it done. But there is the DVD release is on June 11th. So.
Miriam wants to know what the funniest thing or moment that happened while recording the last album. I don't know if you have a funny story to share.
Oh, geez. Honestly, with John Feldman, every day is a weird and funny moment. That guy is a living, breathing cartoon character. He's the most wonderful person in the world, but he's also hilarious to be around. And so if anybody's watched the documentary from the making of the record, you've seen that he's definitely a character, the kind of guy who walks around wearing shoes on his head and yelling and getting inappropriately flirting with members of the band just to make us uncomfortable, I guess. He's definitely a character. So I don't know that I could cite a specific example, because there definitely was a lot of work involved. We were very serious about the record, but like anything, you have joys and you have fun while you're in the studio. So and just being around such a wonderful person was enough for us.
Awesome. Another question submitted on Twitter was, what are your favorite hobbies? A lot of people were asking what you do when you're not on tour or recording.
Hang out at home. I read Batman comic books, and I hang out with my girl and my cats, and I watch bullshit reality shows like Hell's Kitchen, and I don't know. I like to have my domestic time, I guess. Spend so much time on the road that it's sometimes nice to just sit at home and relax, and honestly wait for the next tour. We're the kind of band that loves touring, so we kind of get a little bit antsy when it's too long between tours. We start to kind of get a little bit like, when are we going to be on the road again? But I enjoy my life. I have a kind of a normal life that I lead outside of the life of being on stage.
Cool. So there are a lot of questions asked about your tattoos. So would you mind sharing which is one of your favorites, or which was your first one?
I like this one, the koala bear. That's probably. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I thought you were pointing to your armpit side.
No, he's a drunk koala who's dressed as me, holding a bottle of whiskey. So I mean, I don't know if you can really get much better than that. I don't think I can.
How did you go into a shop and ask for that?
I didn't go into a shop. I got that done before I went out on stage on the last day of the 2011 AP tour. It's always been a dream of mine to have a pet koala that we bring on tour with us and dress up in a little leather jacket and sunglasses, and he just hangs out. We toss him around. He sleeps. Fortunately, we went to Australia and I got to do the whole holding the koala thing. That was cool.
That's pretty sweet.
Hey, Crow. I'm going to show you guys Crow. This is my little panther. I don't have a koala bear, but I have a little panther who's currently stuck between two legs of the chair. Hold on. Oh, you little asshole! What are you doing? Come here. There he is.
Oh, too cute. Hold on. Oh, I'm not able to put the cat face on you. I could only put the cat face on myself. Bummer.
Yes, put the cat face on yourself. Look at him. Say hi, Crow. He doesn't care. He just wants to look out the window at the things he wants to attack. But he's...
That's what cats do.
Say hi. I'm Crow, hi.
Oh no, I have to get rid of this face. Alright. Cool. Alright, so, let's see. Every song is written, obviously, in a different way. Do you have any interesting stories about how a particular song came to be?
Well, I think every song, like you say, they're different experiences. Something like In the End, the single, my grandfather had just passed away before that song was written. And the song was definitely a collaborative effort with the whole band, but, for me, going into writing the lyrical stuff on that song and the mood of that song, I had just gone to my grandfather's funeral, and I was very close to my grandfather, and that portion of my family is deeply religious, deeply Catholic, and I went to the church that I went to as a kid and grew up in, and everybody's talking about how my grandfather is in heaven, and the sort of traditional sense of heaven, and how people when they die, if they're good Christians or Catholics or whatever, they ascend into heaven and they live with God, and that's a very wonderful notion, and it's not necessarily something that my whole life I've been able to believe in. I have my own spirituality, and all I can really think about the whole time is that we're all sitting around in this room talking about how wonderful this person is and how amazing this person was in all of our lives. And I noticed that there is nothing that could, whether a heaven exists or it doesn't, in the physical. Portion of my family is deeply religious, deeply Catholic, and I went to the church that I went to as a kid and grew up in, and everybody's talking about how my grandfather is in heaven, and the sort of traditional sense of heaven, and how people when they die, if they're good Christians or Catholics or whatever, they ascend into heaven and they live with God, and that's a very wonderful notion, and it's not necessarily something that my whole life I've been able to believe in. I have my own spirituality, and all I can really think about the whole time is that we're all sitting around in this room, make on people in your time on this life or in this world, and so in the end, sort of became about how you can create your own afterlife, or how you can live forever simply by doing something that leaves a legacy and makes a mark, and always being true to yourself. And what's interesting about that song, and something that not a lot of people know, is that about 2 to 3 weeks after the record was finished, I sent some songs to my parents to listen to, and my mom brought In the End over to my grandmother, and she freaked out and started almost like crying. And my mom, didn't necessarily know why, and my grandmother went into her bedroom and found what's the term? The speech at a funeral. I'm sorry, I blanked right now. What you say when someone dies. My grandfather had written a speech about his father when his father had died. That was written maybe 20, 35 years ago or something. and it was almost word for word identical to the lyrics for In the End. Like, literally said the term, in the end, as I walk into the darkness, I'm not afraid to die. And there was all this stuff, and it was like, I don't necessarily have a strong belief in a lot of spirituality, but I can't deny that that was something that moved me. And to this day, I can't really explain, how 30 years ago, before I was even born, my grandfather wrote something that was identical that I had never read to a song that I wrote about him. It makes you wonder what sort of inspiration, what kind of divine inspiration we have in his life.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for sharing that, even though that's pretty personal. So
absolutely. I think sometimes if any of our fans can see something that is important to us and they get to really know what our process is, it can help them in their own art and their own creativity, and that's the most important thing.
Of course. Well, congrats on also getting Song of the Year for the third time in a row at the Golden Village. So we all kind of know about the ceremony at this point. So a lot of your fans submitted questions asking about how to deal with bullies, haters, trolls, things of that nature. So do you have any suggestions or advice?
Well, look, I think that it's important to note, you look at something like the Golden Gods, and I wrote about this. I wrote something that a lot of our fans have read. I kind of wrote a little blog essay post. We have dealt with our fair number of people that have either, unjustly or for whatever reason, have disliked the band a great deal. And, even you guys know, simply by posting a picture of me on the Warped Tour Instagram, there's tons of people that, oh, fuck that, fag, whatever. And, when you deal with that for your entire life, from the time you're a kid until you're an adult, you start to kind of, you become detached from the kind of anger. You start to just be like, okay, that's what happens. People say shitty things and you move on. But sometimes you can only deal with so much. And in a situation like the Golden Gods the other night, we were put out, we were just told that we had won this award. We were so excited. We had hung out, upstairs at the Golden Gods. And I should note this, by the way, for people who don't understand. The Golden Gods, the fan section is not where the artists are. Some people were like, I can't believe you would curse out all my favorite bands. None of your favorite bands were sitting out there. Those were all people who had paid to go see Metallica play, the headliners. They were not there for, they booed Gene Simmons off the stage and all these legends, because anybody that wasn't Metallica they were upset with, which I get it, because, we're definitely not Metallica. We are Black Veil Brides. It's a different name. But so those people were people that were just angry that there was anybody on stage, let alone a band like ours that already causes so much controversy. So we walk out excited that we won this award, and we immediately see all these people that are throwing things at us and flipping us off and booing us. And it definitely isn't the most restrained moment I've had in my life, but the true anger and the true feeling of, fuck you, I did something significant, and my fans and the people that I really care about voted to make this happen, was so overwhelming that I kind of went on stage and just, I had nothing, I was seeing red, and I wanted to defend the honor of the band, and I wanted to defend the fans. And I've taken a fair amount of shit from other bands and people that are, holier than thou, saying, oh, well, how could you say things like people are fat with beards or whatever? But when you're sitting in a room and people are literally cursing at you because of the fact that you've had the audacity to win an award or to do what you love, you're not really paying attention to how quaint you are and what you're saying. And it's very easy for people who have never been in that situation and may never be in that situation to pass judgment on someone like me. But I think it's hugely disrespectful to tell me how I should be in a situation where I'm backed up against a wall. So for our fans, the message that I always try to give is, if you feel something is appropriate or something's right, you should always follow yourself to that end, and you should make sure that what you're doing is true to your own character. And yes, sometimes we slip, and in a moment like that, I'm not necessarily proud of everything that is said, but it's a rock and roll band, and sometimes you don't need to go out there and kiss everyone's ass. Sometimes you need to shove your own emotions and anger back at them because it's deserved. And sometimes it's best you just move on. There's an important song in my life called I by Kiss. And the chorus is, I believe in me. I believe in something more than they can understand. I believe in me. And it's very simple, and it's a very simple line. But it meant something to me so much when I was a kid. That line, I believe in something more than you can understand. I've always believed that who I am as a person, regardless of whether other people agreed with it, was something more than they could understand. Who I was intrinsically me, and it didn't matter if other people didn't get it. So to our fans, I've always just said, be yourself and be true to yourself. And if that person isn't the person that someone else wants, who cares? You're your own greatest fan and you're your own greatest friend.
Sure. A lot of people also wanted to know how it feels to know that you've inspired so many of your fans, and a lot of them were even posting that you guys saved their lives. So how does that feel?
It's an amazing feeling. I think that for us, we try to be as genuine as possible, and we don't make any bones about the fact that we didn't start doing this to be role models. We started doing this because we were disenfranchised people that wanted to make rock and roll music and wanted to have fun and wanted to rebel in our own way. And we hoped that other people would connect with that. But knowing that it's a very genuine thing that's coming from on our end, and then knowing that it can affect people so profoundly or so positively because of our own, the lyrics or the music or whatever else that's true to us, it's the greatest feeling in the world. To know that something that I wrote, on my front steps, one night that was expressing my own feelings could affect someone that is, a decade younger than me or a decade older than me or, sitting in their house in Germany or Japan or wherever, could affect them so profoundly it's something that it shouldn't be overlooked, and it's something that's very important particularly about rock and roll music. It has a power to evoke feelings in people that are important.
Awesome. So what advice would you give for somebody who has or is looking to start a band?
Have balls made of steel. Have a will that is titanium plated. The idea that you want to do something and it's going to be great is not what everyone else agrees with. And sometimes, particularly in bands, when you first start, if you have an interesting idea or something that's different, people will shit all over it because either they're jealous or they don't like what you're doing or they don't get it. It's important to remember that what you believe in is the most important thing. So if you're going to start a band, know that you might get shit, but as long as you can work through it and you persevere and you have the feelings inside yourself to do something important, you can always power through. Black Veil Brides was not the kind of band that was welcomed with open arms into the mainstream culture. We are fortunate that because of our fan base and people that believe in something like us, we persevered with them and they pushed us through. And now we're fortunate to win awards and have plaques and all this stuff that you get when you're a big band or whatever. It's because of our fans. It's because people agreed that we had something cool to say and that they had something cool to say with us. And if you're going to start a band, remember the community and remember to feel something important.
For sure. Vicky wants to know, what's the best advice you've ever been given?
It's interesting. I've been given so much advice in my life by so many different people that I've used so often, but very recently, after the Golden Gods, Sebastian Bach texted me, and he said something that was, obviously I'm not going to say everything that was said, but basically the idea was that rock and roll is about survival, and it's about getting through. If somebody doesn't like what you do, fuck them, survive, outshine them, and live longer and do better than they could believe that you could, or that they can themselves. Always want to survive and move forward, and that's important. Whether it's rock and roll or anything, survival, moving forward and doing what you want to do.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. Bree wants to know, what's one of your favorite or weirdest gift from a fan?
Geez. We've gotten so much cool shit, One time someone custom made me Batman footy pajamas. Like, I'm
awesome.
too. I don't even know how they had it. They knew my exact height and dimensions, and they made me these sweet ass footy pajamas that I wore, jokingly would wear to sound check and everything. We've gotten so much cool stuff, honestly. Just over the years.
Them all?
We have a storage space in the South Bay area in Los Angeles that we keep all these fan drawings and dolls and all this stuff, because one day I'd love to be able to look back and, say one day I have kids or whatever, I'd love to be able to show them, look, this is what, someone felt so strongly that this is something that they made, and I just think for posterity, I'd love to always have those things. It's so cool that people care so much to bring us this stuff, and a lot of it, people buy us stuff, and we've never asked people to buy us anything, but people do. They'll spend money just to bring, whatever to the show. Batman DVDs or comic books or toys, or going out and buying the materials to make dolls of each of us, or people make us jewelry or shirts, or, I've gotten so much great stuff, and I've worn stuff on stage. I have stuff in my closets that, to this day I still have that were given us on tours from, 5 years ago.
Jordan wants to know, would you ever do a live album?
I'd love to do a live album. If it was done the right way and we could really have an opportunity to make something special, I'd love to do that. Again, being a Kiss fan, Kiss Alive is one of the the cornerstones for live rock albums. So
if we had an opportunity to do something like that, that'd be amazing.
Cool. Cassie wants to know, do you ever get stuck on songwriting?
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody does.
Yeah.
I think you hit a writer's block all the time. To me, I always just, if an idea isn't hitting after a couple tries at it, I usually abandon it for a while, and then maybe I'll come back to it later. But I don't ever try to force anything, because I feel like that's when you start to write songs that are kind of disingenuous, when you're trying to force lines to come out. And honestly, that's the way we looked at this record. We didn't really know how many songs were going to be on it. You know, we wound up with 19 tracks. We wrote, and I wrote in particular, you know, there was like a couple ideas that I had at the end of the record, and we were still tracking, and I went into Feldy, and I was like, look, I think I'm done. I think I've said all I want to say on this. You know, everything past this point is going to be disingenuous. So for that record, we literally just wrote until we didn't have any Add Your Own style. I think, you know, even I'm still discovering what my style is. You know, I think that Wretched and Divine is certainly the closest that we've come to really finding what Black Veil Bride's sound is. But I think a true musician or a true artist or whatever you want to call it is always searching for what their sound is going to be.
Yeah, of course. I think life is a work in progress, right? Ellie wants to know, what have you learned from your experience with Black Veil Brides?
You know, it's been my whole life, basically. You know, I came up with the concepts for this when I was a little kid. I started touring when I was like 17, so I don't really know a life without Black Veil Brides. It's kind of synonymous. It would be hard for me to say what did I learn, because everything I've learned since I was a teenager has been involved with the band in some way. I grew up, I became an adult, I did all these things with the band. And I've written a lot of songs to that end. You know, there's a song called Youth and Whiskey off Set the World on Fire, our previous record, that was just about, you know, being 17 and then being thrown into, you know, a van with a bunch of adult guys and rock and roll and touring all over the place. And, like, it's like, you know, trial by fire. You have to grow up fast. And rock and roll is not always an easy lifestyle, but it's definitely a fun one.
Cool. Do you remember your first concert?
Yes, I do, and I also want to find my lighter right now, which I'm almost entirely certain that my cat stole. Hold on. Oh, found it. Got it. Yeah.
Not cat stolen.
My cat did not steal it. He takes everything else, though. Like, I'm pretty sure that he has opposable thumbs, because, like, I don't even know how some of the things... Like, the other day, we lost a speaker, like one of those little, like, you know, tiny things you hook, and we couldn't find it anywhere. Like, it basically it disappeared. And I told Juliet, I was like, I really think that the cats took it. And she's like, that's impossible. How would they pick it up? And then, lo and behold, we walk into the bedroom, and fucking Crow is there with it in his hands. Like, he had been, like, knocking it around all over the house and hiding it from us as a toy. So, yeah. He's a little bit of an asshole. He's a little scrappy asshole.
You're going to find, like, a little cubby with all your missing things in it.
My first concert was Billy Idol at an amusement park.
That's awesome.
Kings Island in Cincinnati, or Mason, Ohio, I guess it is. I saw Billy Idol. It was awesome.
I'm jealous. Also, do you have a favorite book or author?
Author. You know, I honestly, I like a lot of. I like fiction, and I do read a lot of fictional books. However, recently I've been in a kick of reading a lot of, like, biographies. I read Dee Snider's biography, like rock biographies. Something interesting about being on the road and reading about other people's experiences in the same world. So I've been getting really into reading, like, you know, people's memoirs and stuff. It's kind of cool. So I read, you know, Gene Simmons' book and Dee Snider's book and, you know, Nikki Sixx's books. Those are all really cool. I've been also getting into the Game of Thrones books. Those are cool.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of the series. I mean, who isn't? It's the best TV show ever. So, but yeah, I love the books. I just got into the first one. So.
Awesome. I just caught up with that right before this interview, actually. So.
Really, we gotta watch last night's episode. We're a day behind. We don't have HBO on the TV in the bedroom. So we have HBO Go. So we watch it on the Xbox. So we gotta, and it usually takes a day for those things to load. So we can watch it today.
Yeah. All right. So, what is something you would like to achieve this year?
Honestly, I don't like to set short-term goals for myself. I never have. I don't like to look at it as like, what do I want 2013 to be? Because ultimately, then, what do I want for 2014 and 15 and all that? I like to always just set the goal to continue to strive in my music and my career, and to try to reach as big as we possibly can. You know, I think every band in their hearts wants to be the biggest band in the world. I think sometimes people are afraid to say that because it comes off as cocky or whatever else, but I genuinely want us to be the biggest band in the world. If for nothing else, then we've had the chance to do it, and we've had the chance to share our message with people. And if we crash and burn trying, at least I know we've given it our all. So I'm just going to keep working hard.
Cool. So before we wrap up, I just wanted to say that I was watching an interview with you guys, and it was a Brian Stars interview, but don't worry, it's nothing vulgar. But you said something that I actually really appreciate, where you pretty much said that it's important for bands and interviewers to have mutual respect for each other because they're doing what they both love. And I'm brand new to being the pit reporter, so I went into this nervous and now a little bit more confident because of that. So I really appreciate that. And the last question, of course, the last question we have is, who or what inspires you?
Jeez, there's so much. Life inspires me. I've always, and I don't mean that in like a ethereal sort of like Enya wave. I mean it literally. I genuinely am inspired by seeing people and reactions and meeting fans and going to the grocery store and watching how people interact. I've always been a bit of a sponge when it comes to human interaction, and I love watching how people talk to one another, or just the art of conversation. To me is always interesting. I love words. I love communication. I love when positive things happen to people, how elated people can be, and then also, not in a morbid way, but it's interesting to see how sadness can affect people. I just like to be a student of the world around me as much as I can be.
I forgot what author it was. There's a few who actually talked about how they would sit on the subway in New York and go back and forth just because they would like to watch people, and that's how they would come up with stuff.
I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, cool. So do you have any closing thoughts?
Thanks for talking to me, and just real quick, I just want to just say, I appreciate all of these things that are, being put on my head, or tiaras or crowns, and thank you so much from the king of Dogtown. Thank you for watching my Google Hangout for Warped Tour, and we'll see you this summer.
Awesome. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Black Veil Bride's playing all summer. I can't wait for my eyes to turn into eye butter, and I'll see you this summer.
Eye butter.